So today is a mentor text. We're going to take a look at this work I mentioned last time, which is from Stuart Firestein, a neuroscience at Columbia. This little thin volume, which is a great example of informational explanatory writing like that, which we're doing. So Firestein, as we mentioned, is a cognitive scientist, and this book is all about, as you can tell from the title, really the importance of ignorance and how ignorance actually drives science, how the questions that scientists ask are more important than the data that they actually produce. And the book ends with several different case studies, and we're going to take a look. Our passage today comes from one of those case studies. What we want to try to do is to identify the details in this passage that can be traced back to research and identify some of the moves that the writer makes to convey this information. So we'll take a look at the passage and we'll try to do some of those things. Astronomer David Helfand, more on the experimental than theoretical side, is waiting for a nearby star to blow up. When I say nearby, it is important to realize that terms like near and far in astronomy are not the same as when you give directions to your friend's house for a party. So already here, we're starting to see that element of explanation and really the simplicity, the clarity, and the metaphor that Firestein is using here. That's what I mean by identifying the moves the writer is making. Helfand is hoping for something local here in the Milky Way in our 100,000 light year neighborhood. An especially bright supernova appeared in 1181, and it was recorded as a guest star in religious and historical reports and personal diaries from China and Japan. So notice within the same paragraph now, Firestein starts with his case study of this astronomer, but now here we're introduced a new kind of detail, what we've been calling the details that we're selecting from our research. And the detail is essentially historical, right? This bright supernova appears in 1181. It's recorded as a guest star in religious and historical reports, personal diaries from China and Japan. As an interesting sidelight on what we don't know, the event went largely unnoticed, or at least unrecorded in medieval Europe, where Aristotelian views of a never-changing, perfect celestial sphere still held sway. So I don't know how much you know about that Aristotelian view, but you see here now the writer is doing what you're asked to do, which is to synthesize, to bring together different ideas, different perspectives, and different details to create something new. And we see already we have, in this one paragraph, we find this case study, we find this historical detail, and we find this idea of the Aristotelian view. Of a never-changing perfect celestial sphere still held sway. A fairly bright new star in the sky was apparently not considered an important enough event to record. It wasn't likely to be any more than some disturbance. You see how easy it is to miss things. In contrast, another supernova that could be detected by the naked eye in the night sky occurred in 1572. Now well into the Renaissance and more liberated from the tyranny of classical authority, it was recorded by astronomers throughout Europe. So this is another detail, right, which comes from different kinds of a different source, which he brings together with the prior detail, Yes, indeed, this one was used as a case against the Aristotelian view of immutable heavens. Stars blowing up leave traces that can tell you something about what they were made of and how they operated and why they came to an end. Now that is a beautiful sentence. Look at that sentence. It's so simple. The wording is so clear and precise and simple, and it really conveys a lot. I think that's something we can take away as writers as we're trying to inform a reader on such a difficult kind of subject matter, right? Like these big questions like consciousness. We have to use language that is really simple and clear. A stellar death is a kind of astronomical crime scene. So again, a simple metaphor to help to clarify the idea, to inform and to convey this knowledge. A stellar death is a kind of astronomical crime scene, and the science uses a forensic approach, analyzing what's left behind to reconstruct and understand the causes of an event that couldn't easily have been predicted beforehand. So what I want you to do is to continue on with this passage, to look closely at it. If we were in class, obviously you'd have a handout and you'd annotate it, but I want you to identify these details, pay attention to the way that the writer brings them together and the moves that the writer is making.